But the seals taught him the most important things. How to have fun and... how to laugh. Real hard and wonderful, like he meant it. Ho, 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 ho!
Hi there, and welcome to Baseball by Design. I am SportsLogos.net minor league baseball correspondent Paul Caputo, broadcasting live, as always, from the Sunday Helmet Hall of Fame in my basement in Fort Collins, Colorado.
And I am Dan Simon, broadcasting from the Studio Simon headquarters in Louisville, Kentucky.
Dan, good morning. Hello, how are you?
Good morning to you, Paul. I am fantastic. And yourself?
I'm doing very well. We're going to be talking today about a fun brand, the Victoria HarbourCats. That's how I pronounce it in my head because there's a U in Harbor because they're in Canada. They're in Victoria, British Columbia. The HarbourCats. One word, two capital letters. Which, Dan, I learned recently from a listener who goes by Leah the Trivia Wench on Blue Sky. She alerted me that one word, two caps, there's a name for that, and it is called camel case, which kind of makes sense. I had never heard that before in my life. And when I texted you about it, you told me that you were going to use it for the stumper of this episode. And Leah and I both ruined it by alerting you to that fact.
Yeah, because I had never heard about it myself until I was doing my research for the stumper for this episode. And I learned in my research, I came across an article which was basically like, well, it went back to the Victoria HarbourCats inception when they were granted an expansion franchise in the WCL, and they unveiled their identity, and quoted in that article, that story, was friend of the show, friend of yourself, Chris Creamer of SportsLogos.net, who made a reference to that term, camel case, with regard to the HarbourCats word mark or name. So I had never heard of it. You had never heard of it. And we both heard about it either on the same day or within one day of each other. What are the odds of that?
That was pretty crazy. Yeah. And it was actually one of my favorite things is when folks who listen to the podcast who, I always super appreciate learning that people are listening to the podcast because this is a labor of love for me and for us. And it's something we really enjoy doing. And to know that there are people out there listening and when folks go on social media and comment about what they've heard on the podcast, it fills me with joy. So thank you to Leah for that. But also, yeah, Chris Creamer, he is the founder of SportsLogos.net. He gave me the platform to write about minor league baseball logos that has led me to develop all of these connections and with friends and teams and designers that led to this podcast. So Chris was quoted in that 2011 article that you sent to me after I sent you the text or the message from Leah. And then, yeah, we both learned about camel case, which I plan on using either camel case or camel caps, which I enjoyed that in the article. I assume it was something that Chris emailed to them, and he formulated it as you would by using camel case. He spelled camel case, one word, two caps, which is, kind of a funny thing to do. Little meta there. So also, I'm very grateful when people rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. I've never said that, I think. We're 200 and something episodes in, Dan. I don't think I've ever said rate, review, subscribe. But every time a new rating pops up on Apple Podcast, it makes me so happy. So hey, listeners, that's what I want for Christmas. It's ratings on Apple Podcast. So, Dan, this is about the Victoria HarbourCats. Have you ever been to Victoria, British Columbia?
I have indeed. Beautiful town. My wife and I went there as part of a trip to the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, Victoria, Vancouver, and back to Seattle.
It's a beautiful part of the world, and we're going to learn exactly what a HarbourCat is. It's a little bit like conversations that you might have on the other side of the continent about a sea dog. So there's conversations that'll happen about that, but we're also just going to talk about this area, this beautiful part of the continent. I mean, the first word out of everyone's mouth when you say, hey, have you been there? Beautiful. You said beautiful. It's an incredibly beautiful place to go. I will say, the harbor is important to me in this conversation because when I've been to Seattle or I've been to Vancouver, they have these like very expensive tours that you can do in the harbor there, or you can spend like $8 to $10 to take the ferry across the harbor or the sound to, like an island, and you get the same tour, but it's like $8, $10 instead of $80. So if what you're interested in is the scenery, that's the thing to do. It's a way to take in the scenery, and it's like a half hour, 45-minute ride, and you just get to take it in, and then they dump you off on like a little island, and you can walk around, and there's like brew pubs and gift shops and ice cream. There's always ice cream. So that's the harbor and harbors are integral to this part of the world. And harbor cats, it's a phrase I had not heard before. I learned about it because of this team. So I learned about harbor cats and I learned about camel case thanks to this episode of the podcast.
See that? The things you learn because of baseball.
Dan, we're going to be talking with Jim Swanson, who is the owner of the HarbourCats. And then we're going to be talking with Ranger Amy to learn just precisely what a harbor cat is. And then you're going to be back with a Studio Simon Stumper.
Yes, I will. Looking forward to that. So I'll see you in just a little bit.
All right, everyone. I'm so pleased to have on Baseball by Design, Jim Swanson of the Victoria HarbourCats. Jim, how are you doing?
I'm good, Paul. How are you doing?
I am doing really well. Thank you for joining us from north of the border up there in Canada at the time of this recording. The World Series is fresh in everyone's memory, so my condolences to you and all of Canada for a heartbreaking loss. My goodness, what a World Series that was.
Maybe the best World Series of all time. What does it rank up there with, 1975, 1991, maybe 2001? I mean, just a great series. Great for baseball, and that's, somebody had to come up a little bit short, and the Blue Jays did, but everyone's got a target on the Dodgers, so it's good. It's good for baseball, I think, all around.
It was great for baseball. I think I certainly watched every inning of it. Even that 18-inning game, I was glued to the TV for all of it. I'm a Phillies fan, so I didn't necessarily have a dog in that fight, but I was rooting for your Blue Jays. It would have been, I think, the better story. However, we're not here to talk about the Blue Jays. We're not here to talk about the Dodgers or even the Phillies. We are talking about the Victoria HarbourCats, all one word. HarbourCats, all one word. What's a harbor cat?
Well, with a capital C in the middle of it, too. You can't forget the capital C as part of that. So
one word,
yeah.
One
capital
word, two
C in
capitals.
The middle. Absolutely. We tried to make it a little bit complex. There you go. And the OUR piece is Canadian spelling on a number of words like color and honor.
Yep.
It has the OUR on it. So harbor is the same thing. And I have to spell that to prospective players or coaches or programs all the time, so they don't send the email to the wrong email address and forget the U in HarbourCats. But yeah, no, the HarbourCats have been around since the announcement of the team in 2012. Started playing in 2013 at what we now call Wilson's Group Stadium at Royal Athletic Park in Victoria. And we're proud of the legacy of the HarbourCats. We played every season, obviously, except for the two that COVID shut us down, 2020 and 2021. And we've been, in terms of real attendance numbers of actual bums and seats, we've been, at the top or near the top of the West Coast League since the start. The Edmonton Riverhawks have passed us. They've got a 1 million person city and a AAA park. They've done a very good job there in Edmonton. But we've been the real attendance leader in the West Coast League and are proud of that. And we get to host the West Coast League's All-Star Game as well in 2026 and 2027 at Royal Athletic Park.
And you play in a beautiful part of the continent, Victoria, British Columbia. I've been to Vancouver, of course, as many people have, but Victoria is just really a spectacular part of the continent. There is a Victoria Harbor. I assume that's related to the HarbourCats.
100%. The Inner Harbor is a major part of the tourism piece of Victoria, which has been named the top city and the top tourism city in the world a number of times by a number of different publications that matter, like Condé Nast and others. And yeah, the Inner Harbor with the Empress Hotel, with the legislature buildings, and where our provincial capital is in Victoria, so where those buildings are, and then when they're lit up at night, especially around Christmas, it's spectacular in that whole area. The food options, the all the stuff that goes on downtown. It's a very spectacular city, and best climate in all of Canada for sure. We like to kind of consider ourselves the San Diego of Canada in that way, and that our location and our climate. Very little snow if we get any. And some years we don't get any at all. Some years we get a day of it and it's gone by noon. So yeah, the name Harbor Cats came from a name the team contest that was done by the original owner and management group back in 2012, and that was the name they came up with. It was Harbor Cats. Again, all one word with a capital C in the middle of it, and the original logo is still the original logo that we've stayed with today. We've done some offshoots of it in order to try some different things with merchandise and hat designs. We've added the color red to the official colors of our team as well. That's a Canadian thing for sure. We've added the maple leaf, not unlike what the Blue Jays have with their logo and the little maple leaf that's on the top corner. And just tried to do everything we can to be proud of where we are, proud of our country, proud of where we play, where we get to play, and certainly the area that we get to represent.
The logo itself features a cat that I can describe best, I think, as sleek. I would say this is a streamlined cat logo with his fangs sort of bared there. Is it a specific kind of like big cat, or is it a house cat, or is it a generic cat? What kind of cat are we looking at there?
I can tell you it's actually more harbor cat means like a cat of the ocean or a cat of the harbor. So it's actually more intended to be a seal. And so a seal is when they made the decision to go with that name and the name of the team contest and sorting through that, there was a lot of different teams that were going with that River Dogs type of a
Sure.
of a thing with that naming in minor league baseball and collegiate baseball. And they went with that at that time, and it certainly played well in the market. It's become a name that's synonymous with baseball. It's the top baseball program on Vancouver Island. Of course, Nanaimo up the island now has a team as well that we also control that team, the Nanaimo Night Owls. But the Harbor Cats, certainly the top baseball team in the South Vancouver Island, which is a population of about 450,000 people, so a good sized population with the municipalities around Victoria. And that Harbor Cat logo and name has just become synonymous with a fun night at the ballpark, great weather where you have very, very few rainouts. Think of Seattle when you think of our weather patterns. Seattle gets very little rain in the winter, or sorry, in the summer, but a lot of rain in the winter. We're pretty much the same. It's a pretty wet and gross day today here in Victoria. So we're doing, we that harbor and Harbor Cat theme was trying to play into that whole name of a team contest, name of teams in minor league baseball, and the way that was being done back in kind of those days.
We didn't even mention yet, and we should have, that the Harbor Cats play in the West Coast League, which is a collegiate summer level baseball league that spans over the border. There are Canadian teams and there are American teams. Is there a rivalry between the Canadian teams and the American teams, or is it sort of every team for themselves?
I think it's every team for themselves, but it certainly does bring an interesting factor to it. There's 17 teams. There's 5 in Canada. There's Edmonton, that is the only team that's in Alberta, and then there's 4 teams in British Columbia. 2 of them are on the island, Victoria and Nanaimo, and then you have the Kamloops North Paws and the Kelowna Falcons that are about a 2 hours drive apart in the south center of the province and the interior, and they're kind of on the way to Edmonton in that way, and due north of Wenatchee and Yakima when you look at the map and where they are. So yeah, 17 teams, 12 of them in the States, Oregon and Washington being the places for those. And there's actually a number of teams when we talk about the makeup of our name, Harbor Cats, the one word with the capital in the middle. The Wenatchee Apple Sox also do that. When it comes to that, we have a number of teams in our league that are just like that. They use like that double team name with two words kind of smushed into one with a capital letter in the middle when it comes to naming of teams. And I think the Wenatchee Apple Sox is one of the great all-time team names from just that traditional baseball type name and very well-known name, I think, within our league. And so many good names throughout our league as well. The Yakima Valley Pippins around an apple. The Walla Walla Sweets might have the best hat logo in our league with that W2, and just a lot of really good teams in our league that do a really good job with their marketing and their branding.
It is a league that is replete with some great branding. There was an episode I did several years ago now with Rob Nyer, and we talked about the league at large. Right, he's been involved with the league for a little while. There's some absolutely fantastic branding in the league. The Harbor Cats unveiled a home uniform that will look familiar to anyone who is familiar with the history of baseball in Canada. Very much looked like it was a tribute to those old Montreal Expos. Is that still part of the branding now? Is that part of the visual vernacular of the Harbor Cats?
Yeah, it is, and I'll give you a scoop as part of this too. So our head coach is Todd Haney, who played parts of 5 seasons in the major leagues and made his debut with the Montreal Expos back in 1992, I think it was. And he was it was if you ever see the video of Gary Carter getting his last hit in Major League Baseball at the Big O in Montreal, a double over Andre Dawson's head, and he gets to second base and celebrates, and they pull him out of the game, and it's his last time playing. You'll see Todd Haney on the bench if you follow that video. You'll see Haney number one. And so adding the red to our color scheme and having a new set of whites needed, we decided to pay tribute to Todd. He's been our head coach since 2019. He was an assistant coach in 2018. He signed through 2030. He's an outstanding coach. He's as strong a coach as we're ever going to see in this league. He does a great job. And just a tremendous friend of ours now that over time and loves coming here, him and his wife Kira. And so the tribute to Todd was to do that set of uniforms with the Expos home whites with the blue and red down the side and the logo position where it is, a number on the front, and the same number font. We use the same font. And we are going to unveil a baby blue set that is just like that for next year. We haven't told the public that yet, but we're working on that as it is right now to get those ready to come in May so they're ready for our season. But that will be the replacement for the baby blue set. And the baby blue set that we had used was a tribute to a previous head coach, which was Brian McRae, who played for the Kansas City Royals, of course. Royals royalty there with his dad Hal McRae being a player and manager for that team. It was the father-son player-manager situation there. And Brian was our head coach in 2017 and 2018. He brought us Todd Haney, as a matter of fact. But the baby blue set was actually originally a tribute to Brian that way. And then we do have an Expos style cap that we wear as a game cap that is also part of sort of a nod to Todd and what he's brought to our program, and just an opportunity to work off of a very popular style and a popular look that I think everybody would love to see the Expos back in the league just for those uniforms, get a team back in Montreal. And so we took the opportunity to do exactly that and make a set of uniforms just like those.
I am a huge proponent of that idea. I actually tried to move to Montreal in the year 2001, and it didn't work out for me. But I have a soft spot for Montreal. It actually raises sort of an interesting question in my mind, right? Victoria is literally thousands of miles from Montreal, but you have that national pride in those major league teams, and Toronto obviously still around, and Montreal moved in 2004, but not close, right? Like, and I remember hearing the Toronto fans or the fans rooting for the Blue Jays during that Blue Jays Seattle series, right? Like a lot of folks, I'm sure, came down from British Columbia. The national pride in Canadian baseball teams doesn't seem to be related to geography. It seems to be related to being part of Canada. Are you finding that to be true with the two teams that you're involved with?
Yeah, there's no question that, I mean, it's a product of the media and the cable systems, right? Like TSN and Sportsnet would play the Blue Jays and the Expos. They had those contracts, and that's the territories they're granted by Major League Baseball is that as well. Even though we get a lot of inundation here, this side of the country, from especially the Mariners and some California stuff that'll come through the cable stations that we get as well. But definitely that media piece plays a large part into it. And there's a lot of people that have moved from Eastern Canada out to the West Coast for jobs and family and different things like that still have roots back to the eastern side. And there's more movement across the country than there is, say, across the border. And I would say this though, that the Mariners Blue Jays series really pulled at some of the loyalties of the fans in this area, because for many people in this place, they're more likely to have had a Major League Baseball at the park experience in Seattle, at the Kingdome for that matter, let alone Safeco or T-Mobile as it's called now. And so the Blue Jays and the Mariners, you found the lines kind of drawn either way. And and frankly, I think for a lot of people here, in this side of the country, had the Mariners won it, it would have been just as exciting for them to see that World Series in many ways between the Mariners and the Dodgers or whoever, if the Dodgers had lost to the Brewers in that round, it would have been exciting to do that. But what made it exciting for us with the Blue Jays here in Victoria in particular is that Nathan Lucas, the outfielder for the Blue Jays, played for the HarbourCats in 2014. He was our Player of the Year, and he very much loved playing for Victoria and being in Canada. And we like to say he got his start of learning how to play in Canada by playing here first, and then went on to his long minor league career before he finally made the jump to the big leagues. A great story, but it's a great young man, nice family, great people, and we were cheering for him all the way. And we've actually unveiled a T-shirt that's got a HarbourCats logo on the front, but Lucas 38 on the back in the form of that Blue Jays font, the way they do their numbers with the line in the middle, the white line in the middle of the numbers. So we've sold a few of those T-shirts just to celebrate Lucas and Nathan being in the World Series and getting some very big hits. He had obviously a huge hit against the Yankees to help win that series and allow the Blue Jays to move on to face the Mariners.
Well, that is, it's super cool. And, it obviously created such an interesting storyline, during the playoffs this year. And to hear the connections to those HarbourCats is very cool. Jim, before I let you go, I understand that the logo itself has remained unchanged since the team was founded in 2012. But a lot of the sort of shifting and the different things you've done over the years, you've done some interesting things with different uniforms to sort of shift the branding around. What are some other things that you've done?
Yeah, some throwbacks, of course, are done in a lot of different places, and we did a alternate baby blue jersey as well. That was the Victoria Mussels, which was a former minor league team here, and it basically showed a clam like a mussel, like a seafood type of a thing that with muscular arms on them and extended like flexing, and that was a popular jersey we did. We could go back to that at some point. We probably will. I would think in a year or two we'll try that again. Bring back another one of those. But there's also been some others in the past, like the bees. The Victoria Bees would be a very interesting one to do back to like 100 years ago when that one was here. And then I think we were the first team ever to put our mascot's name on a jersey. So we have a set of jerseys. Harvey the Harbour-Cat is our very popular and very, very good mascot, very active, very much a fan favorite, very popular in the community. And so we have a jersey that actually has in script across the front just has Harvey. And I don't believe I know of any other team anywhere that has put not even the Philadelphia Flyers with Gritty or Yuppie or the San Diego Chicken. I don't think anybody's ever done a jersey that had the mascot's name across the front, and our guys loved wearing it. It was an easy, light pullover jersey. It said Harvey with Harvey's face on it, and was just a unique piece. And we managed to sell some of those as souvenirs as well. So went over very well to have the Harvey jersey, and that was sponsored as well as a good charity piece because it was part of Help Fill a Dream, which is a charity that helps families that are going through tough times with children who are going through health challenges. And so it had a really good full rounded tie-in and did some good things in the community, did some good things at the ballpark.
I'm checking out Harvey now too. He's got a great ironic hipster teal mustache. That's pretty cool. You don't see a lot of mascots with mustaches. I was also going to say, I was trying to think of, like a team that might have had their mascot on their uniform. And I can't think of any. The closest I could come was maybe the Vermont Lake Monsters, whose mascot is Champ. But they were never the Vermont Champs, mostly because they never really won that many championships. So they can't really.
That makes sense.
Jim, this has been so much fun. I really appreciate it. This HarbourCats team has a really cool logo and a really great backstory and such an interesting representation of baseball in Canada. I really appreciate this story and you taking the time to tell it. Where can people go find the HarbourCats online? Maybe find some merch, find you on social media?
Yeah, we're heavy with merchandise offerings at harbourcats.com. And don't forget that U in HarbourCats in Harbor and harbourcats.com. And then we're extremely active on social media with X, Twitter. I'm old enough to call it Twitter, Instagram, and of course Facebook. We do a lot of stuff on Facebook, and then even LinkedIn, and getting more involved in things like TikTok and Snapchat as we go forward here this coming year as well.
HarbourCats with a U, capital H, capital C, one word, and you play in the beautiful, beautiful Victoria, British Columbia. Jim, thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Paul. Appreciate it.
Baseball by Design listeners worldwide. It is my honor to introduce to you the official Baseball by Design wildlife correspondent, musical enthusiast, and national anthem extraordinaire, Ranger Amy Burnett.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Baseball by Design's wildlife correspondent, Ranger Amy Burnett. Ranger Amy, hello.
Hello.
Ranger Amy, we are thousands of miles away from the spot that we're going to be talking about. We are on the East Coast. It's Christmas time.
Yeah.
It's the holidays in Philadelphia. It's
Happy holidays, everybody.
It's Wawa hoagies,
Christmas.
and Christmas lights, and it's Hanukkah as we're recording this. So happy holidays to everybody. But we're talking about a team that is way the heck over on the other side of the continent in Victoria, British Columbia. We keep saying it on this podcast, an incredibly beautiful part of the continent. You and I have been to British Columbia.
We have. I love that area.
You like it because of the handsome boy in the TV show Virgin River that you like.
It's a great show. Well, maybe not so great, but I like parts of it.
Great show. He has a nice face, that handsome boy. Anyhow, we are talking about the Victoria HarbourCats.
Yes.
Not to be confused with the Portland Sea Dogs. I'm seeing a relationship between like Sea Dogs and HarbourCats. Am I crazy?
You're not crazy.
Okay. So what is, and Jim Swanson touched on it briefly.
Yeah.
He said that a HarbourCat is a seal.
A HarbourCat is a seal. So if you are looking at what you think is a seal, and it has back flippers and it's like walking around like SeaWorld, and it's going and it has ears on the outside.
Yeah. Okay.
You're looking at a sea lion, not a seal.
Okay. So external ears, and it's walking around on its flippers.
Yeah, doing like SeaWorld tricks.
Okay.
That's a sea lion.
All right.
But if you're looking at something that is basically doing the worm on the ground because it has a hard time walking on land,
Yeah.
you don't see the ears, and it looks like a fat sausage,
Yeah.
you're looking at a seal.
Okay. So that's the difference between a sea lion and a seal.
Yeah.
The Sea Dogs, Portland Sea Dogs, they're modeled off the harbor seals in the Atlantic Ocean, even though their mascot has ears. It's artistic license.
I won't hold it against
I talked to Guy Gilchrist about it, and he was just like, yeah, whatever. It's artistic license. It's a minor league baseball mascot, right? But my question for you is, this team is called the HarbourCats, Harbor with a U.
Yeah.
The HarbourCats is a kind of seal.
Right. So HarbourCat is referring to a marine mammal that hangs out in the harbor that is seal-like. And so it's most likely the most common type of true seal, which is the harbor seal. And they live north of the equator in both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. So they're truly an international seal and the most common one that you're going to see. So the most recognizable seal in the world.
Okay. And so that sort of leads into my question, which is a HarbourCat like a special kind of seal, or is HarbourCat just like a nickname for any kind of seal?
The second.
The second one.
However, it's probably a harbor seal because that's what you're going to see in the area where this team is.
Well, it does make sense if they both have harbor in them.
That's the word harbor.
I have the logo up on our screen right now, and it's it's a little bit cat-like, but it's also he's very much a seal, but he's got like fangs there. Do seals have fangs like that?
I'm going to show you a picture of a harbor seal. Give me a second here.
Look at him.
Look at this guy. I mean, does that look ferocious to you?
He does not look ferocious.
He's got huge eyes. He's got like these big whiskers. So they use their whiskers to make up for the fact that they don't see all that well. They see mostly in black and white, and they see better underwater than on land. But anyway, when they're in the water, they use these big, huge whiskers. They're kind of like a cat because they use the whiskers, so I can see the resemblance. But they have these big, like watery, big eyes that just make you just want to hug them.
So when I think about like
don't do that, by the way.
A moose.
It's against the law.
Don't hug seals. Don't hug harbor seals.
No.
Unless it's a HarbourCat baseball player, in which case maybe they would welcome being hugged.
They might.
Yeah. But this guy...
Thankfully, baseball players are probably not going to be about the size of a harbor seal, which gets up to 300 pounds.
That's funny. I picture them being little because I think of seals being smaller than sea lions.
No, like the females are like 165-ish on average, but the males can be about up to 285, so almost 300 pounds. But they are like a fat sausage, and they're adorable.
They did get the whiskers like down pat. Those whiskers are,
they did.
Yeah, they've got pronounced whiskers
Cat.
here in this logo. But like fangs, what are their teeth like? Do they have fangs? Like,
Well, they don't have fangs, but they have crazy sharp teeth because they have to grab a hold of and rip into fish, right?
yeah,
Their favorite food or crustaceans,
yeah.
shrimp and things like that. So they have a good set of teeth. Like they could rip your, they could do some damage if they got a hold of your hand. But they're more likely to they're lovers, not fighters, or at least big sausages, not fighters. They're going to run away if they see you. If you approach them, they're just going to sort of like caterpillar their way away from
Yeah.
you on land and try to get away and then jump into the water where they can swim away really fast.
Why would nature evolve such a cute looking animal that did not want to have its head scratched and its nose booped?
You gotta ask Darwin about that. Maybe he has some insight.
Okay.
I really don't know. Can I tell you something really nerdy about the fact that their eyes are so cute and watery?
All right. Yeah. Let's hear it.
Well, there's a reason why seals always look like they're crying. You want to know why? They don't have tear ducts
Oh,
that drain into nasal passages. So that basically their eyes are constantly producing tears to keep their eyes from getting too dry when they're on land. And so they look like they're crying, and then it just drips onto their fur and makes them look like they're constantly crying.
so all right. So they're huge. They can be up to almost 300 pounds.
They're huge. They can hold their breath up to 30 minutes underwater.
Okay.
Well, I guess.
Right. Or above water.
above
Maybe
water.
just if they're showing off.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're really quiet. They're not actually the barky like like sea lions. They're just kind of quiet unless they really need to be.
Okay.
They're scared or something like that. They see better underwater than
Okay.
on land. I found that was kind of cool. They see mostly in black and white. The biggest predators are sea lions, sharks, killer whales, polar bears, and walruses. So
Wow.
if you wonder what the difference is between a sea lion and a seal, I can tell you that a sea lion knows the difference because they're going to get eaten by one.
So if one of them is eating the other and it has ears,
Mhm.
that's your sea lion.
Right. Yeah, their sea lions are even better, bigger predators than seals.
All right. So if I'm correct about this, and I'm going to use the Philadelphia pronunciation because we're here in Philadelphia,
Of course,
they spend most of their time.
I expect you to.
They spend most of their time in the water,
Mhm.
but it's
Usually
cold.
about half and half.
Oh, it's
like,
about half and half. Okay.
overall, but they just do better in the water.
But uh, they are in parts of the world where the water is quite cold.
Yes.
So how do they stay warm?
Most of the places you find harbor seals are in areas that's really cold and the water is super cold. So they have this really thick layer of blubber, and that keeps
Oh.
them from getting too cold. The outside of the body actually can be the same temperature as the cold water, but the inside, the core temperature, stays about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's right around what temperature we are. Isn't that cool? So their blubber just kind of keeps it's like a big, huge, fluffy, like a down jacket really, and that just keeps everything warm inside. And I thought that was pretty cool that the outside could be as cold as the water and the inside stays 100 degrees.
This, in baseball terms, reminds me kind of like, say, the 1993 Philadelphia Phillies. There were some big guys on that team.
Maybe they used
Kind
that
of a
strategy.
Pete Incaviglia figure.
But let's talk about being, as far as like the athleticism.
Oh, okay. All right.
I would try to claim the sea lion as their mascot. Do you know why?
I don't.
They're much more agile and fast.
Okay. Okay.
So harbor seals can swim up to 12 miles an hour.
Okay.
That doesn't mean anything unless I tell you that Michael Phelps at a sprint can go 6.2 miles an hour at the top speed. And that's a sprint.
Okay.
But a sea lion can can swim double a harbor seal. So they are 25 to 30 miles an hour.
Okay.
So sea lions way faster. Harbor seals still faster than Michael Phelps.
I feel like many of your talking points in this conversation have been not so much specifically about harbor cats and harbor seals, but comparing seals and sea lions. Are you advocating for
Yes.
both the sea dogs and the harbor cats to adopt sea lions rather than seals as their mascots?
I'm just looking at you guys. Those of you, I'm looking straight at you now. You can't see this, but I'm looking straight in the camera and saying, if you have any influence over what mascot, pick a sea lion. Sea lions, they're a lot more badass. Like harbor seals, they're just more, they don't hold up as much. They're not as athletic. They're not as agile because they don't have the rotating back hind limbs. They're just, so basically sea lions are more evolved than harbor seals.
Okay.
But harbor seals are cuter.
They're adorable. We saw that picture early on.
So you could sell more merch in the store. So maybe
Yeah.
that's why.
Okay. Ranger Amy, thank you. This has been illustrative as always. Hey, you're on
On the social.
the socials as the real Ranger Amy. I think that's Instagram.
Okay.
And then just Ranger Amy maybe on Threads and
Yeah.
Blue Sky.
And
Okay.
Blue Sky.
I think that's what it is. Okay.
Ranger Amy.
All right. Well, hey, thank you for stopping by again, and happy holidays, everyone out there.
Thanks for having me on, and happy holidays.
Let's go see what Dan's up to.
Okay, sounds great. Hi, Dan.
All right, everyone, welcome back. I am so pleased to have once again, as we do every single week, we have Dan Simon of Studio Simon with a Studio Simon Stumper. Dan takes a break from his designing awesome minor league baseball logos to bring me a fun trivia question. Here we are talking about Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. So we could be talking about any of a number of Canadian baseball teams. We could be talking about marine mammals, perhaps. We could be talking about camel case words that have extra U's in them that we wouldn't have down here in the United States. There's so many things we could be talking about. I'm curious to see where you're going to take us, Dan.
Well, where I'm going to take you is someplace I don't know that we've gone with a Studio Simon Stumper before.
Wow.
With your podcast, you're generally, from the design standpoint, you're generally talking about the logos themselves. You might talk about the word mark or word marks as well, but you don't. I listen to virtually every episode, and there doesn't seem to be that much talk with the club and or the designer about the uniforms themselves, which is fine. You know, it's called baseball by design. Logos are designed, but then again, so are the uniforms. So I decided to ask, I was going to do this Stumper based on this team's uniform. So our Studio Simon Stumper today asks, which of these Major League Baseball uniforms were the current Victoria HarbourCats home uniforms modeled after?
Okay.
Was it the Montreal Expos 80s quote unquote racing stripe uniforms and pinwheel cap? When I say racing stripe, their original uniforms didn't have this, but there are stripes down the shoulders and sleeve and on the side of the jerseys and down the pant leg. So that's what I'm referring to there. So that's A. B, the Houston Astros Tequila Sunrise uniforms. I'm assuming you're familiar with which ones those are. The stripes across from the chest down, actually, on the jerseys. Or C, the Toronto Blue Jays 70s and 80s era uniforms with the pullover V-neck and the logo right in the middle of the jersey. So you got those three straight in your head?
I do, Dan. And this is the part of the Stumper where I say, oh, well, there are two teams in Canada there, and the Tequila Sunrise is a fun one, and they would have had a great time with that. And maybe I'll call my sister who once visited Montreal, and maybe she knows. And Montreal Expos, final answer, Dan.
Now, you seem pretty certain there. What are you basing that on? Do you know what their uniforms look like?
I do. I base it on knowing what their uniforms look like.
Okay. Well, see, then that's good. And that's your knowledge of baseball, your knowledge of this particular team. I would not have known whether you knew of their uniforms or not. And you are correct. And it is not only a tribute to a team in the same country in which the HarbourCats play, but it is also a tribute to their head coach, Tom Haney, and who is a former major league infielder who debuted with the Montreal Expos, and their pitching coach, Scott Anderson, who is a former minor leaguer in the Expos organization. So it was part of country pride and team coaching pride.
I mean, it's actually interesting that you say, because you're right. We don't talk a ton about uniforms necessarily I enjoyed that this team's uniforms were modeled after the Expos. And we chatted about that a little bit with Jim Swanson on this episode previously. So I think listeners would have been pretty disappointed if they had heard me get this one wrong after we chatted about that. Seems you would have been you would have had the same chance of stumping me if you had brought your camel case question.
Well, no, you wouldn't have been stunned
That's what I'm
because
saying. Is
okay.
I was destined to get this stumper right. I think, Dan. That's not always the case. So hey, every once in a while, it's kind of fun to actually know the answer.
Yeah, and I want to just mention that I love, as a designer who designs not just logos but uniforms, I love the opportunity to do something with a uniform I design that is an homage
Mm,
to a previous uniform. It's not a matter of copying. It is honoring
sure.
something from the past that I really liked. I got to do that with the Bradenton Marauders, who are a Pittsburgh Pirates affiliate. And when I did their identity, we did an alternate cap that has a yellow crown and a black visor, like the 70s era Pittsburgh Pirates had. And I just I just absolutely loved that cap when I was a kid, and I loved having the opportunity to honor that cap and that team. The Roberto Clemente Pirates, Willie Stargell as well, and other great players. I got to do it actually a bunch with Dodger affiliates where I was we've even discussed this on, when we did the Oklahoma City Comets episode and the Ontario Tower Buzzards episode, where I was specifically being asked to create uniforms that reflected the Dodgers uniforms. So any opportunity I get a chance to do that is welcome.
Do you think that I'm looking at the hat wall behind me, and those tritone caps now, you see a fair amount of that, right? Like I'm just looking at my own wall here. Like I see one from the Durham Bulls jumping out. I see the Jersey Shore Blue Claws, and there's a handful of hats here that use that tritone model. Is that the Expos? Can the Expos claim credit for being the first to wear that on a prominent stage?
As far as I know, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I remember I used to look down on that cap when I was much younger, and because because it was unlike any other cap out there. We're talking about, there was a day and age when baseball was a very traditional sport with regard to how their uniforms looked. And then you had things like the Oakland A's going to the all yellow uniforms. You had speaking of the Pittsburgh Pirates, after that yellow cap with a black visor that I mentioned, they had their kind of mix and match uniforms, also done by the Oakland A's, the
Right.
swinging A's, as they were called in the early
Goodness.
70s.
Yeah.
But the Pirates had multiple colors that they would mix and match the pants and the jerseys. And it was so non-traditional that a lot of people didn't like them. Now I look back on all of those things with love.
Of course.
What I didn't like about the Montreal Expos caps, I now absolutely love, and it's one of my favorite caps of all time. Looking back on it, I have great, I adore them.
It's one of the reasons John Hodgman says nostalgia is a toxic impulse. I remember that one of the uniforms that Todd Radom called out in his Winning Ugly baseball uniform book was the Phillies all maroon one. Todd called that out as being a particularly bad uniform in the annals of history. I think if they were to bust that out as a throwback, that's another one that people probably hated at the time and would love now. And then, of course, if the Chicago White Sox ever tried to play in shorts again, that would be fun too.
Yeah, they brought back, the Chicago White Sox did, the jerseys they wore with those shorts.
With like the collars, like the big wide,
Right.
like 70s collars. Yeah.
Well, when you say 70s, it was supposed to look like uniforms from the 19th century, like late
Right.
1800s uniforms, when a number of teams played with jerseys that had collars on them, because that's what the style was at that time. So I don't think they were it wasn't like disco era uniforms, although that would be pretty cool as well
That would
for
be fun.
somebody to do that.
That
Get
would
the
be,
disco turkeys to do that.
and then we could have disco demolition night again.
Yes, bring it all back.
Dan Simon. You can find Dan Simon on Instagram at studio_Simon. And then, of course, online at studiosimon.net. So, Dan, thank you once again for all of the time and effort you put into Studio Simon Stumpers. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to chat with you every single week. It's a ton of fun. And hey, we'll see you next week.
It is a ton of fun. I look forward to it each week, and I look forward to next week. I'll see you then.